Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Soulthentic podcast. I am Lynn, the host and creator of Soulthentic, and today is going to be a really special episode that I have today with my sister, Skylar Temple Singer. I asked my sister to join me today to just have a really beautiful conversation about Libra season, all of the collective energetics going on right now. And I want this to be just this open conversation that we have about so many different topics. I know me and Skylar can just go into so many different things, but we're really going to be anchoring into what's alive and what's present right now. And this is going to be a really embodied energetic forecast of what's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks going into Libra season. And we're going to speak into some of the different big astrological events that are going to happen within this next season as well. So without further ado, welcome Skylar Temple Singer, my sister, onto the podcast today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, sister, for having me. I just love everything about what we create together. And yeah, I'm just excited to flow with you. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. Would you like to share just a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to the community?
Yeah. So my name is Skylar Temple Singer. I am a multidimensional intuitive visionary, sound healer, yoga instructor, aerial performance, and an artist. I sing, I dance, I do all the things that bring me joy in this life. And my mission here is to help awaken humanity and preserve our humanity by being my fullest self in every moment and showing others that they can be their fullest selves in every moment and they have permission. Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. And yes, I really see you as this multidimensional creatrix, such a goddess. And thank you so much for being present here today. I know that we're going to share so many gems, so many different things that have been happening personally for us, but also within the collective, what we're feeling. And, you know, as I was anchoring into what was important to talk about today, what was important to share with people tuning in, it really feels like there's this contraction and expansion happening on a really big collective level. I think many of us who are really sensitive to that feel that, have been feeling that for a really long time. But I feel like even more now, because as we're entering into this fall equinox, which also means that we're entering into the point of Libra season, it's this contraction of energy. It's this like consolidation. And within Chinese medicine, we also say this is the metal element season. So it's all about really consolidating the things that we've learned this year. And some of those things are going to essentially be tests. It's going to be, you know, the universe sending you certain tests that, you know, have been happening throughout this year, but it's going to kind of get to this kind of peak. And some of us may have been feeling that peak within the summer. But as we're going more into winter season, as we're going more into fall, it's like we're actually being confronted with these aspects within ourselves, because it's all within. Everything is essentially being projected outwards into our environment. And so we're being kind of presented with certain situations and opportunities and relationships that we're being asked to discern. We're being asked to take stock and to harvest the things that really actually are meant to serve our path, and to let go of the things that are not. And, you know, me and you were really speaking to that in the beginning when we started tuning in together today, just speaking into discernment and how important that is when we are creating, when we're co-creating, when we are getting into right relationship with ourselves and with other people. And it's this really important ability that we have to really anchor into right now, I feel like much more than ever in any season. I mean, always, I think having really strong boundaries, having the discernment to know what's right for you in a moment and what's not. But I definitely feel like there's this collective energy of understanding, okay, we actually have, but we have like infinite ability to tap into, I almost want to say like source intelligence, but at the same time, we are anchored into this physical body that has limited resources. So we almost have to be really discerning with where we have, where we put our time, where we put our energy, who we spend our time with. And so I'm really curious to know like how that's been showing up for you and what your thoughts are on discernment.
Ooh, you just spoke so much truth. And yeah, like just reflecting on this whole year and feeling that the wave of what's come through, I feel like there was definitely a peak in the summer. And for me, the contraction started in Leo season and has been like a little bit of a push and pull since then, of like slowly kind of like rising back up, and then also like feeling that preparation for death to move into winter, the harvest that we just had, the harvest full moon, cultivating everything that we have sown this year and grown. I feel like we have been chatting a lot about the wild woman, and not just the wild woman, but like the wise crone phase of having this wisdom. Yeah, like you embody that so well.
I've been feeling the crone so much.
Yeah, I see her in you, and I think that's maybe a reflection that you and I get a lot from other women in the community who are a bit older than us, who just reflect like, how are you in this place in your 20s? And like, they see it, they see us in our crone, and also our just connection to and dedication, I think, to being in this space. And I'm grateful to be able to have the learning from the crone. So yeah, this phase I think has been so inspired by her, as well as like that full Kali expression. Like Kali is destroying, she is tearing things down. And I feel her working hand in hand with Durga to bring that discernment in. And yeah, for me, this has been showing up for about half of the year, maybe even the whole year, to the whole year, to clear, cut away relationships that don't serve, with clients, with people in, personal or work, whatever it is. I have been tested this year, and I see this coming through with other people as well. And I remember when it first started to show up, it showed up as the toxic masculine coming at me through the internet. And I reflected this back to you in the spring or so. And I just felt like, what is it, that I, within me, that I'm drawing in, that is inviting this energy? And I kind of forgot about it for a little bit. And then it came back around and really hit me in the face. And in the form of someone who I was close to, who I had to end a relationship with. And I felt like I had just been so blinded, and like I had lost my ability to discern. And so over these last couple months, I have just been pulling out my sword of discernment over and over again, until finally just recently I had an experience where I had to not be nice. I've been sharing with you like my experience with anger and how I kind of learned as a kid, and I took an experience and felt like it wasn't okay to express anger. And you know, as a collective, women are taught that we're not okay to be angry.
Right.
But my essence is Aries and Aquarius, and Aries is that fire. And
yeah, it is.
we need that anger. And so I let it come out in a graceful way, like guided by Durga. And it was like once I was willing to stand my ground, to know what I stand for, which is me not being overgiving, me knowing who I am, me knowing that I cannot give to someone who wants to take from me rather than just receive. It has felt so much more firm. And I feel that's like woven really perfectly with the Mercury retrograde. There have been some technological things going on here, but I've really felt the blessings of it, of Mercury retrograde showing you how to clear your communications and your relationships. And I see it and I feel it teaching me how to be clear with my word. And also that retrograde action has brought back some unresolved things that I've cleared with other people that now feel really good.
Yeah, you said so much there that I want to just tune into. And I just also want to reflect that you've gone through so much growth this year. I mean, me and you have shared so many different experiences and different tests that we've gone through this year. And it's really interesting how it shows up for you versus how it shows up for me. And I think you as an Aries, and just speaking into this relationship with anger that we have, especially, I think this is speaking into a greater conversation about our relationships with emotion. I think that as an Aries, it is common and really like, it almost feels like it's easier for you to tap into that energy of fire, that energy of being able to just, you know, be short-tempered and, you know, not have patience for things. I think so many of us have learned not to express that, and that has actually been taken by our shadow. The things that we don't own, the things that we tend to repress or that we conceal, then go into our shadow. And it makes a lot of sense with you also speaking about the crown and about Kali Ma being here, because she is bringing up those shadows and she's clearing away those shadows. I mean, she's all about that. She's all about being the wise woman and seeing the truth of all situations. And so it almost feels like there's this, I almost feel like you've been at like doing this dance, right? Doing that like really sacred dance with things that have come up, the different tests, the shadow aspects of yourself, because a lot of these situations are just reflecting what's inside of us, right? The things that we have then repressed inside of us. And I have also experienced that really strongly this year as well. And I think that me and you have had that deeper conversation about anger before, and how, yeah, as women, we were almost taught like we can't express our anger. And, you know, I've read once that women actually turn our anger inwards, and it becomes this like inner frustration that we then take out in other ways. And I think that also speaks into the imbalance of the masculine and the feminine energies here, where like the masculine energy has been seen and kind of conditioned to act a certain way, but then the feminine energy has been totally, you know, skewed to act another way. Like we have to be these like complete givers and allow takers to come into our life and like us to be okay with it. And I think that we're actually tapping into the energy of Libra and Aries here. So I love that I called you on to speak today because yes, you are an Aries, you're so Aries, but we are actually going into Libra. And so Aries and Libra are the opposite signs. They're actually complete opposite areas of the zodiac. And so what that really means is that, yes, they have opposite qualities, but they are the same thing. They're the same creator, just on two sides of the coin. So you can act super Aries, but then that, the same, like, I almost want to say evolutionary drive or the same thing, that same want is at the surface of that. And what that is peace. It's just the sign and how each sign does it is going to be different. And so an Aries is going to do it in a way that feels like a resistance. It feels like a war. It feels like this fiery energy that's going to go out and do it. Libra is the energy of, you know, it's an air sign. It's a cardinal air sign. So it's going to act in ways that's going to make sure that all connections are going to be okay. Everything's peaceful. Everything's in harmony. And how it's going to do it is going to be through negotiation, through consultation, through connection, really through intimate communication. And that's very opposite to war, right? That's very like, let's sit down and have a peace agreement. Aries is like, I'm going to go out and get it. It doesn't matter what, doesn't matter what you're going to say. I deserve my peace. And so what's really beautiful about that is I feel that so many of us are awakening to, well, what gives me peace? What makes me feel joyful? You know, where did my energy change when this person came into my fields? And how can I go back to how I felt before and like almost do this assessment of what's happening in our lives? And so that is the energy of Mercury retrograde, being able to do this really overall reflection of who's in our life, what's happening in our relationships, how am I feeling? Is there anger that I'm feeling, or am I actually like pleasing people at the detriment of myself? And those are really like shadow aspects of each of those signs. And so I love that you're speaking onto this because you're already tapping into that energy. I think that so many of us are feeling as well, that the Mercury retrograde is making us almost reflect on the communications and the relationships that we have with not only other people, but within ourselves, because it all comes back to ourselves. What are these deeper shadows or these things that we're not owning, things that are not concealed or that have been hidden, that are being reflected outwards? And so I love that you're speaking into that. And I also want to go back and speak about the full moon in Pisces, because you spoke into like the harvest full moon, and that was such a very pinnacle moment, I feel like, within this year, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And so it was like this cycle closing. Like I definitely feel like there's a new air, there's like a new energy here coming into this next part of the year. And so for me, that really showed up in my health. That really showed up in my own like well-being, like what it means to be a spiritual being in a physical body. Oh yeah, like when I do get sick, I'm out. Like I can't actually live my purpose. I can't actually do the things I want to do because I have to tend to this physical earthly body. And so I'm really curious how the full moon really opened up things for you as well. Like, did anything really come really strong come through in that point. And yeah, I'm really curious to know like how that's really been showing up for you.
Well, I want to speak into what you just tapped into about being a spiritual being in a physical body. And the discernment, I think, really are kind of some key pieces that came through for me with this full moon, which is that we are these infinite beings with, you know, these super bio bodies like that can do so many things for us, but that's only when we bring ourselves into the fullness of our bodies, into the fullness of this moment. When we are split into our multidimensionality, it's really hard to be here. And that how that looks like in the physical plane is if you're splitting your energy between people who don't actually give back to you, or through commitments, whatever it is, then how can you really fully be here? And how can you really fully be in your joy and in your purpose and your mission and with the people that you're meant to be with? There's only so much that we can experience in this body, and there are infinite timelines that we can experience, but we're here to experience the one that is the best for us, the purest and the most loving, the most giving to us, the most giving back to the earth, so that we can all heal together. And yeah, that for me is like the sword that cuts, is the love, actually connecting back to, why am I cutting all this away? My my own relationship with discernment was is resistant sometimes, because I want to love everybody, and I want to give everybody a chance. And that ends up hurting me sometimes, because I let that overtake, and then I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And so instead of, you know, having this perspective of I'm a bad person if I choose not to spend my time with a certain person or certain people, instead I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be, and that I'm making space for what's to come, which is what we did with the harvest full moon. We like took out all of the things that we've grown over this year to make more space to plant more seeds in the spring again, to grow again what's next to come. Yeah, clearing the channel.
I love that. I love that you speak onto that so much, with so much clarity and so much grace. I definitely resonate with being able to make the space and have the trust in your own creative power. And I think something that's come through for me so strong is, as I'm discerning, as I'm cutting away, as I'm tuning in deeper into my earthly body, and choosing that, and choosing to have stronger energetic boundaries. In fact, I'm making even more space for me to expand, and what you just said reminded me of that. And, you know, I'm going to speak into my own experience of like the different initiations that have been going on for me and my health. And I think that actually started during the full moon in Pisces, of me really feeling it in my body and not being discerning with work, not being discerning with, you know, the different things that I was doing. And I'm so Capricorn, and I just feel like I can just like take on everything. And then I get to the point of this like rupture, right? This like initiation where it gets to a point where you almost have to stop. And of course, I'm like coming out of that like health initiation, definitely feeling better. But it realized, I realized is like, yeah, it is tuning into this like earthly body or earth connection, and remembering that how we treat our bodies, how we treat the earth, is directly how we treat like the greater collective earth and other people. And so I've definitely been anchoring into that and expanding into, okay, well, what does it mean to like really, really slow down and to discern with myself? And so a lot of, I think, me going into this year was a lot of discernment with myself. Funny enough, like I think that for you, it's been happening like more externally. For me, it's been like this internal reorganization and like, okay, well, where do I want to really like put my energy? What does it mean to really discern between all of these ideas and all of these like multi-dimensional things that I want to do, but tune into the things that are really, truly important? And so, yeah, I love that we're speaking onto this because it really feels like the axis between Aries and Libra. It's kind of like the fight and like this tension, this push and pull of, I want this. It's very much about my vision, but then the vision for other people and our connection to all beings. And, as we kind of come out of the Mercury retrograde, which is going to end in October 22nd. So Mercury is going to go into Virgo. So it's about to actually transition, and we're going to experience the full moon in Aries on October 9th. And, that's going to be almost the most illuminated part of, I think, these like internal conflicts and these different tests that we've been having, and being able to fully clear away, okay, these are the different tests that we're having. These are the different relationships that have come through. These are the different dynamics and patterns that have come in. Now, how do I want to alchemize them so that way I can use that and take action on that and act from a place of truly transcending these different patterns that we've been steeped into? Another thing I really want to anchor in here is that the planets and these different energetics really want us to tune into our highest potential, really want us to live out our fullest yes, really want us to experience pleasure and joy, but it's really our decision. We were speaking into this as being the awakened creator or the unconscious creator. And I feel like right now it's like this, like it's so much clearer to me, and I feel like for you as well, that like we get to choose. Spirit is so unbiased, it's so neutral. Like it just wants to hold the space for us to like play on this cosmic playground and like explore and learn in the earth school. But it's up to us how we want to use our free will. It's really up to us how we want to decide how to create our lives. Are we going to create it in a way that feels awakened and conscious, and that we're going to take account of, okay, yes, there is my vision here, but how is that vision collecting to, contributing to my community and to humanity, right? In this bigger way that feels like connected, and that we feel like we're a part of like a shift that's happening for people to awaken to their highest potential. I'm really curious to really speak with you about like the awakened creator and the unconscious creator, and how that energy has been showing up for you, and also what you're feeling in terms of the full moon in Aries, because it's gonna illuminate your sun and so much of your chart. So
ooh, yeah, wow. when feeling into the Libra and Aries axis, you know, they each hold an equinox. And that feels so right with like Libra holding the scales of balance. And Aries, I do feel like also, yeah, Aries wants peace and Aries wants equality. And that's why Aries is willing to like carry the torch forward into the darkness. And so, yeah, there's so many incredible like astrological events that are about to happen. And I feel like that equinox, when we have, you know, even amount of light all over, that is that balance of the awakened conscious creator and the unconscious creator of just light and dark, yin and yang. And my word for this year actually is, or my phrase is, awakened creator. And that's what I've been flowing through. But I'm not hard on myself when I forget, because that's the natural flow of things that we have, is like even in a retrograde, or I don't know if it's, I don't think I have enough astrological knowledge to compare it to that. But you know, like when planets are in darkness, like that's essentially like their journey into the underworld. And yeah, we all have to take our journeys into the underworld. It's just a matter of how we want to respond to what we're given. And yeah, I have felt personally throughout this year times when I was like, I don't know, am I embodying what I felt so strongly and have felt like I have just been the pure essence of at certain times this year, is awakened creator. And then I asked myself in those times when I feel like I lost sight. And this conversation is actually pulling it into view for me of the discernment and the choices that I'm making, the way that I want to live my life. But I'm being clear with my word and my vision and what I want to create. It's on all planes. We have to become aware on all planes, not just being awakened is not just a state of spiritual consciousness. It's also being aware in this physical body of what you're creating, because they're one and the same. And that's how we can rise into the higher planes of being in heaven on earth when other people are in another realm and they're sitting right next to us. And that unconscious is, it's a choice, even though it may not feel like it, because you and I, and those of us who have experienced deep moments of awakening, you know, it feels like, well, how could I not have known? Like I was just ignorant. There were just things that I didn't see before. And I think maybe it's a little mix of both, but it is made of our choices that we take, each and every thought that moves into our mind. And I really feel the power of our voice here coming into play. I felt it like as you were speaking. I had a moment of fun fact for me, like anytime I'm on a screen and I have a Zoom with somebody, I start seeing our auras. And so from the start, like you and I have just been glowing like halos around each of us. And your screen has actually been a bit pixelated for me. And so I've just been like seeing your frequency. And then the aura starts to expand, and like everything around me right now is just like glowing and kind of like cloudy and effervescent.
Mm.
And I share that because I felt your spirit like coming through the screen to me. And I felt us really embodying these two perspectives of like, you're experiencing the inner, I'm experiencing the outer. And yeah, and I just felt like such unison in that polarity, which is so beautiful. So yeah, I think as we move into past the equinox into the full moon in Aries, we're trending towards the sun setting earlier. And I actually have tuned into this Aries full moon a lot. I'm going to be guiding a breath, dance, and sound journey on the 10th from Guatemala, actually, which is really exciting. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's going to be hybrid too. So I'm going to like bring in both the realms. And I was tuning into what I wanted to flow through there. And I saw that it was the Aries full moon, and the fire is going to be so present. And I think particularly the spark of the inner flame, dancing with it, becoming the flame, letting it be, letting yourself just stand in the alchemical transformational fires. I personally have felt myself just like standing in the fire for a while. And it's uncomfortable and also like so exciting because it's how we shed these layers. And so we have the spark, we have the transformation, and then there's like the continuing of nourishing the fire. So we need to bring back in the earth, bring in the air, even like if some of it needs to be put out, if it got too big, we need some water, like we need everything. And coming back down into a place where you know what that fire is within you, coming into the solar plexus and just holding it as if it were just like a single candle, like little candlestick, and you're just maintaining it, to let the spark keep going, because Aries doesn't always have the discipline to keep going, right? Because it is the spark, it starts things. Sometimes it burns out, loses that energy of momentum, and we want to keep supporting ourselves in the Aries full moon to not burn out on whatever we're experiencing. If there's something new that's coming forward, which I think with the eclipse being the next week, that's going to bring something new. We want to be prepared to not get too overwhelmed with this time. I think that brings it back to just having the balance between all the elements, between the subconscious and the conscious, and not losing sight of your goals and your visions and what you stand for, and what all of this cultivation the whole year has been for, what it's been pushing you towards, which is to continue. It doesn't stop here. I think this season is going to be really intense, and I don't think we need to make any hasty decisions, but rather be fully knowing of our actions and our decisions that we're taking. And I would love to hear like what your take is kind of on the eclipses and the equinox and that full moon, because it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for just guiding us on that journey, because I feel like you truly just anchored into like an elemental journey just now. And, you know, I think you actually hit it on the head with the eclipse is coming in. It's going to bring in something new. It's going to be really this deep initiation. And I love also that you spoke into the descent, because I feel that we've been a little bit disconnected from the cyclical nature of life itself, which means that we all go through these phases of the death and the rebirth and the regeneration. And so we are going to experience this opening. You know, I feel that with the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, it is going to open up this like new portal of energy that's going to be, I mean, who knows how it's going to anchor in for each and every person, truly, because I think that's such an individual experience, and it's going to really impact people's charts differently. But I think you also really spoke into something that's important that needs to happen before any of that happens, is this understanding that we have both the Aries and the Libra. We have these aspects, right? We have both the conscious and the unconscious, and that each person's journey is so individual. Like everyone's on their own evolution, and so we can't actually maybe judge or blame another person because they are acting unconscious. It's just a part of their journey. It is just a part of that descent. And it takes each person, I mean, what I'm really thinking about is the hero's journey and that whole progression of that, of going into the darkness and understanding all of the lessons and all of the different parts of us that actually need to die, that actually need to be let go and released and to be put into the fire, and to actually be fully in that experience. And I love that you spoke into just being fully in the fire for the full moon in Aries, really being and surrendering to that energy is so potent. And I think that is the pinnacle of being in your darkness, is completely surrendering to this experience, this moment in time that feels really intense, or that feels like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get out of this, or if this is ever going to change. The universal law of our life and nature is change. All things are based out of change. And so as we descend and really hit that pinnacle of darkness or fire, right? That ultimate yang aspect of fire, we're actually going to be navigated through that. And I think what's really important here is finding the support that really can help you navigate that as well. Because Libra is the energy of connection. It's the energy of relation. It's the energy of the other. So when we're like so deeply in our own experience of something that's happening, sometimes the best thing to do is getting out of yourself, getting out of your body, getting out of your mind, and getting into service. And getting into, well, how can I serve another person? What can I do that can help someone else in their experience today? And sometimes getting out of our own way actually helps us come back to our truth and our presence, right? There's something about truly being able to be of service that brings you back to, okay, wait, like, I'm so deeply connected to this relationship or this thing or this really special opportunity. And so we are going through that life cycle of the death and the regeneration. And I think before the regeneration happens, we are going to experience the solar eclipse, right? We are going to experience the winter, the true death. And so it's going to be really exciting to also have all of these planets. So there's multiple outer planets that are actually going direct this next season. So we have Pluto going direct in Capricorn. We have Saturn going direct in Aquarius. These are really big planets that are actually changing their energy. So Pluto is all about death and rebirth and the transformation and the alchemization of our inner truth and the things that are in our life that no longer serve us. Pluto is that planet that actually wants you to become so truly authentic to yourself and your mission. And it is the Kali Ma, right? Pluto has been retrograde almost all of this year and has been kind of causing us to look inwards and take account of the things that truly do not serve. Like, it's almost that energy of being like so ruthlessly discerning. And as it's going direct in October 8th, it's going to cause a shift in our energy of saying, okay, if I've done all the clearing that I needed to do earlier this year, there's going to be something strong that comes through in these solar eclipses. I really do believe that Saturn going direct in Aquarius is setting us up for that as well. So Saturn is going direct in October 22nd. So just a couple of days right before the new moon solar eclipse in Scorpio. So it's also that energy of anchoring us back into our earthly presence, because Saturn is the planet of our earthly presence, is the limitations and the restrictions, but it's also like our true dedication and commitment to our purpose here on earth. And so I think so many of us are going to be navigated towards different opportunities and relationships that are going to put us in the right direction for this next year. And I definitely feel like it's a great time to take count of what we intended for in the beginning of this year. And as you're speaking into the awakened creator, which is the intention that you anchored into this year, you know, I'm thinking of my own intention of the focus and expansion, and almost how I've gone through an own journey with that of like, what does it mean to fully focus and to put my commitment onto something? And I've gone through my own journey with that of, you know, leaving Costa Rica, recommitting to my medicine path, and also expanding. Like, I feel myself in this major expansion, and, you know, I almost visualize it. Like, I visualize and I see it happening. And I also am grounding that in like, how does this serve the greater community? How does the work that I'm doing going to be benefiting all, right? I'm always truly kind of tuning into that, because I feel like that's the way we're going to help others tune into their own true potential and raise consciousness in our own way by just being who we are. And so, to answer your question on the eclipses, there's going to be such strong energy coming through. There's going to be lots of portals activating that time. And, you know, I think it's a really important time to just reflect, I think, within fall and going into winter, as the yang energy is going down and we're going more into yin, more into the reflection, more of the slowing down. It is important to reflect on the things that you've learned this year, the different patterns, the different dynamics that you've gone through, and also tuning into what your vision will be for yourself going into 2023, and how you want to actually like build off of the things that you've learned this year. And something else that's coming through is this piece about the life cycle of the rupture, the initiation, and the death, and the rebirth, and the regeneration. I think that we're all kind of going through that reconnection with that life cycle collectively. I think in agriculture, we're learning that like regenerative agriculture is such a big piece of taking care of the earth, giving back to the earth, farming in ways that are really connected to the traditional ways of doing it. And in so many different aspects, even within spirituality, we're coming back to the feminine. The feminine is all about the cyclical nature of life. It's all about understanding that, yes, we get to this really strong, raw, powerful, yang aspect of the feminine, but we also get to the point where there's this need to go so deeply within ourselves, go so deeply within our own sacred cave, and to almost like disconnect from all of the energies, you know, and truly go into our own true essence and what that means. And what that reminds me of is the sacred dreamer. And I know that me and you talk a lot about the sacred dreamer, and the sacred dreamer is such a sacred time for me. And what I mean by that is like being truly in the death process, because as we're going into Libra and Scorpio season, it's going to be all about the depth. And, you know, this has been a really special topic for me because I truly don't feel that as a society, we've been so in touch with death itself, right? We've been a little bit disconnected. But the most beautiful things come out of the darkness. And in fact, all creation was created from darkness. It was created from the point zero, was created from the womb space. And so there's something really, really important about that energy coming through here as well. And so as we enter the sacred dreamer, we're entering into the season where we can go truly deep within ourselves. And this is something that I've learned so much within these last couple of years. This like inner deep spiritual journey that you take while you go deep within yourself. And I think a lot of the things that have happened this year and even last year with all the different health initiations that I've gone through have given me the time to fully surrender to the sacred dreamer, surrender to the transition and the transformation into the stillness. And something that comes up for me is that within this stillness, within this darkness, within this womb of creation, there is that spark that happens. There's this spark of light that happens. And in that comes so much beauty. In that is creation itself. And without the darkness, without this cycle of life that we have to go through, we actually aren't experiencing the true nature of life itself. And so I definitely feel like this is something I feel like I experience so much. I think more than other people is this like relationship with dying and this relationship with transforming and being okay with the transformation. You know, I learned something recently within Chinese medicine that on the dark side of the moon, on the yin side of the moon is actually where the strongest lotus grows. This is like an actual real, like a real story from an ancient part of China where the strongest lily bulb actually grows within the yin. And that is such a beautiful, I believe, like analogy to our own lives, that if we completely surrender to this moment of time, of this cycle and do the reflection and do the releasing and actually call in the support that we need, it can be so beneficial to what's to come. And so I want to actually hear from you about how your relationship has been with the sacred dreamer and with this cyclical nature.
So what came up was, that the sacred dreamer is returning into the darkness, into the cave, into the womb, and that it's the time to die and the time to shed. And my own personal relationship with it is that in my wild woman, if I'm not seeing clearly, and if I'm not in my crone, and if I'm not in the wise wild woman, the wild woman wants expression. And if she doesn't get that, then things start to feel a little chaotic. And I think it was the last cycle that I had last month, I was in that space. And I was just like, I want my sacred dreamer. I want my sacred dreamer to come. And I did an embodiment journey of Sophia's around the wild woman. And she spoke in the journey just like, it is safe to die now. And I felt my wild woman just go, yeah. Right.
Yeah, just took a deep breath. Yes.
It's safe to let go. It's natural to go into the darkness. We have, for every day, we have a night. And as soon as that happened, my sacred dreamer came, and I feel like all this deep relief to be releasing. And actually this morning I was meditating, and I was giving thanks to like the sacred blood of my womb and the waters. And I felt how when we release our blood in our sacred dreamer, we're literally losing a physical part of ourselves. A part of us is truly dying.
Yeah.
And it can be so many things, but when I think of the sacred dreamer, I really feel the embodiment of Kuan Yin and her compassion, and of just like, it's all good. Like it's just you now. Like we're returning to purity. And that feels so good. And what did we have to do to get there? We had to go into the darkness. And I heard it said recently that, the conscious thinks that it's the one making all the decisions, but really it's the subconscious. The subconscious is the feminine. It is the darkness, because it is what gives life to the spark. And like we need it. Yeah. We need to embody our darkness and our subconscious and make friends with it, understand it, dance with the shadow in order to experience that growth. I think I love what you said about the lily bulb and the lotus growing on the moon. To me, like moonlight feels so nourishing and kind. And while the sun gives life, it can also be draining and shine too much on you when what you may need is to be in the shade and to recover from from shining so brightly sometimes that you burn out. So yeah, that cycle of dying and moving into the sacred dreamer, I think, yeah, just allows you to come back into the clarity of nothing else being around you. It's just you. And then it starts over again. And when we have that space of just being with ourselves, then we can move into action to be discerning again and cut away anything else that we didn't clear, and move into the full embodiment of the mother lover and just keep journeying through it.
Oh, I love that so much. And, you know, as you're really speaking into the sacred dreamer, what I'm feeling and what I just felt so strongly is this, you know, that release that happens, that death, that like releasing, that letting go. Like I really felt this strong grief there as you were speaking into that, like this collective grief that even our relationship with releasing, with letting go of things is really difficult, right? And within the sacred dreamer and with the guidance of Kuan Yin, there's so much compassion being held for you while you're in that moment. There's so much love. There's so much space being held for you, even when you feel like there's not. There is so much guidance there during that cycle. It's almost like spirit is holding our hand every step of the way while we're in the darkest points of our life, even when it doesn't feel that way. And I believe that the deepest healing can come during those times. It's those revelations that we have when we're like at like the toughest times of our life that actually keep us going in the future moments of our life. It's like we go back into memories of like, oh, remember when I was feeling this way, or I was experiencing this thing with that person. Like, oh, I realized I learned from that situation, right? It's like this deep healing happens within the sacred dreamer, within the death time. And this deep forgiveness, like what I felt as you were speaking was this deep forgiveness happening there too. And Kuan Yin is very much the goddess of mercy and compassion, of self-forgiveness, and of, you know, really this unconditional love that we're being held in as we are entering the sacred dreamer. And you can just tell, like, I have such a special relationship with that phase and with that goddess because I've journeyed with her so much. And I think that this is a really great, you know, transition. You know, as we kind of wrap up here with the time, this is a really great transition into Scorpio season, because that's going to be all about, you know, going really deep within ourselves and allowing the transformation to happen. And so I love that you're speaking into this. I think there's so much opportunity for growth in this next season of Libra. And I love having you on here because we were able to just like play and talk about our different perspectives and really bring in so many different pieces from astrology, from our own personal life, from what we've been feeling personally and collectively. So thank you so much for coming on, sister, and just sharing your magic and sharing your clarity and your grace. I loved just hearing your voice tune in to your own true guidance here and sharing it with everyone. It was such a treat. So thank you so much. Was there any last things you wanted to share before we come to a close today?
I'm just so deeply in gratitude for our friendship and how it continues to grow and evolve, and to receive the wisdom that you are, and to just be in your presence, because you are a blessing. And thank you for having me here and allowing me to share my essence. And I know that we're transmitting this out to the beings who are meant to hear it. And yeah, I'm so grateful. And if anybody wants to connect with me, my Instagram is at Skylar Temple Singer, and website is the same. Would love to connect with you and just see you in the digital realms, or if you're in LA, see you in the physical realms.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for joining, sister, and I love you so much. Thank you for all of those who joined us today, and we hope you received something that can just offer support in these times. And please reach out and connect to us and connect with Skylar as she goes on her journey to Costa Rica and to Guatemala. And I am excited to tune in with you as you come back. And beautiful. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll tune in with you in the next episode. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.